So I have been playing a bunch of all 3 open beta tests for Monster Hunter Wilds, and as a longtime casual gamer of the series, I noticed straight away that this latest title comes with a heap of upgrades that maybe aren't mentioned enough because of all the hype surrounding the game and because this is a Monster Hunter game, so most people tend to focus more on the, well, monster hunting side of monsters? You might be only just now jumping into the whole Monster Hunter universe and quickly be overwhelmed with what you can and should do, because there are a lot of things under the hood of this game that maybe aren't obvious at the start, especially for casual gamers who haven't watched literally every single video that there is about this game and read up on every feature beforehand. So this is exactly that, a list of 4 tips that every new casual hunter should know about going into Monster Hunter Wilds. So without any more filler, let's get on with the first one on the list, which is a obvious one, of course, but it's a really important one. This is also one of the most requested features to ever probably grace the lands of Monster Hunter, and that's using traps effectively, aka you can pick them up now. Look, this feature is the most obvious one on the list, but for non-Monster Hunter players, look, of course you should be able to pick up traps that you set, like literally every game lets you do that, but not Monster Hunter, broski. Well, not up until Wilds, that is, of course. So imagine a scenario where you're battling this fearsome monster that is both epic but also frustrating at the same time, and you want to use all your tactics that you have at your disposal. So you plump down a shock trap or a pitfall trap, hoping to get the upper hand on the hopefully soon to be charging monster. But all of a sudden, this monster's bitch ass decides to relocate from the premises, and you're just stuck there looking all dumb because you just wasted a perfectly good trap. They're very rare. Look, you can only have one of each trap, and you can have the trap tool, which helps you make traps. It just takes up space. You get one of each, and if you plump it down, it's done. You can't use it anymore. The gods of Capcom have listened to me. Oh, not me, most of us. Now you can pick up traps now. All you have to do is walk up to the set trap and hold down the corresponding button. Like, man, for anyone who's played any amount of older Monster Hunter titles, this one is a simple quality of life upgrade, but man, is it clutch. Like I said, you can only carry one of each trap on your hunts, and traps are just vital for you because they not only lock the monster in place for a set amount of time for you to lay all manner of schmackage on them, but also as a bonus tidbit, you should always just be aiming to capture these monsters, and traps are the way to go about doing exactly that. Once a monster becomes weak and you see that little skull icon next to their heads on the map, then set up any traps on their path to wherever they're going and use 2 tranquilizer bombs to knock them out cold. This is very important because the game is all about loot, and capturing monsters also gives you extra materials that lets you run it back once more in an arena setting to get even more materials in a controlled environment, which, now that I think about it, it sounds super freaking morbid. Like, why hasn't someone said that before? That is morbid, to trap a monster in a arena and have tools that help you defeat it easier. Someone should really talk about that. Consider setting traps like littering in public. So next time you see an old trap on the road, be a good lad and pick it up, would you? Number 2 on the list is following monsters for bonus damage. Now this one kind of goes against the previous point in a way, but harking back to what I said about the skull icon and setting up traps, this can easily give you this feeling that you have to go all out on this monster that has been no doubt dunking on you more times than that one random guy on Rocket League. And those freaking air dribbles. I would have, what? Anyway, this is usually the point where, like I said, you could either try and capture the monster according to the previous tip, or lay the power of God himself down upon this poor creature, who at the end of the day is just defending his territory. Like, the world is cruel, I know, but I need me some jams. What if in a morbid turn of events, I told you not to attack these enemies at this moment in time, and instead just follow them as they run away in fear of death? Sounds a bit counterintuitive for new players, but as the OGs already know, following the monster, they will usually go back to their lair of sorts, or a kind of home where they sleep, and try to recoup their health, ignoring the player completely. Sleeping monsters are like fresh apples for the picking. They don't really react again until they are hit, so remember those large barrel bombs that have magically appeared in your inventory? Well, you can set those right next to the monster's dome piece and pull the hardest hitting attack that you have in your arsenal, just to give the monster like the most brutal alarm clock that there is. This is the most satisfying thing to pull off when you're fighting against the most annoying monsters. But before you go setting all the the bombs known to humankind next to their dome. Remember what I mentioned about setting up traps? Look, you can also set up traps that can take down these monsters in literally 2 trank bombs. So if not every, at least most hunters aim to do that because it ends the fight a bit quicker and it's just easier. It's less hassle and you get to fight them in the arena later on. So don't be that guy. Don't be that guy who doesn't wait for his friends to enjoy the last moments of this poor monster's life. Number 3 on the list is also one of the most requested things ever for solo players especially, and that's offline hunting. One of the worst things at Monster Hunter for the casual player is sometimes having to hunt the same monster multiple times, as per Monster Hunter usual, to either get that ever so elusive gem or enough materials to complete a build that is prolific in some skill set or resistance or has some set of perks with it. What's even worse is that this monster in question is something along the lines of Basil Goose, or an Anjanath for example. And by that I mean monsters that make you want to stick the grippy parts of your controller right into your freaking eye sockets. Like straight up there. Well, Capcom thankfully has listened to all of our cries and prayers, and now as a solo player you can summon 3 additional NPC characters to fight alongside you and kind of take the load off of you. And I want to pause on that comment as well. Quickly pause on. All you have to do is go talk to your handler and set your preference to support hunters instead of online hunters. And I think you can also select both. You can also decide how many support hunters you want to have with you on these hunts. So there's a lot of flexibility in that. And I know there are some solo broskis out there that are just scoffing at the idea of not playing solo. This man doesn't play solo. He doesn't solo all the monsters. No hit runs, no armor runs, and basic weapons. Bone weapons, man. You're a just spit everywhere. In my defense of this case, I got nothing. I'm a bitch. I got nothing, man. Shit. Stop yelling at me. But it's a feature in the game, so I will abuse it, of course. Some additional things to know about these support hunters, as surprisingly they can hold up their own and will just hang around the monster as soon as you start to fight, if you start the mission from base, that is. If you start a mission out on the field by just throwing hands with the closest monster available, and you have set your SOS parameters to automatically send for help in a kind of bat signal way, then they'll show up after a little while, so don't fear, NPCs are here. They can also be aggroed into attacking a monster and keep fighting them while you go back to camp and restock. And that's just awesome, because you can now keep pressure on the monster while you cook some food and hopefully don't get trampled on in the process. Or you can just alternatively go rearrange your tent, which you can just be chill about it and let your NPC broskis do all the work. And this kind of brings me to the final point, but also probably the most important bit of information that all Monster Hunter Wilds players, new players, everyone should know about this and actively be doing it. And that's fully using every mechanic in the game. As with every new Monster Hunter game, there are always some new additional features that come with them. And while the core of Monster Hunter usually stays somewhat the same, they all persist from title to title. The games are usually built around these new features, and Wilds is no different, man. As new additions, you can for example set up smaller camps along your journeys that can and will be fully destroyed if monsters are near them, but also these allow you to set up respawn points closer to the action to either get carded to eventually, or alternatively stick your NPC broskis to attack the monster while you go back and restock on all your healables that you no doubt used within the first 5 minutes of the fight. Be honest, you jumped in head first and realized, holy shit, this guy is tougher than he looks with his weird waggly tails with spikes on. Now you gotta use all of your healables and then you gotta go restock. So now it's way easier to do. Cooking has also been updated to allow for more options in preparing grub on the go. And you should always be utilizing this because man, the plus 20, plus 50, plus 70, whatever the health and stamina boosts you get, you come in very handy against the tougher enemies in the game. Sometimes you also get additional skills like added resistance to certain elements or some perks that really boost your experience in the hunt. So you should really always be cooking something when you have the chance, and the game does a pretty good job at reminding you whenever the buffs are about to expire. Another thing that is completely new in this game are the weak spot exploiting of those, you know, those red shiny bits on the monsters that help you deal a bunch of additional damage and really stagger these enemies, man. These are really cool and should definitely be used. It can be a bit difficult to learn, especially for OG players of the series, but for new players alike, man, you gotta learn this as soon as possible because weapons now allow for manual aiming. And with a press of a button, you can pull off special attacks. But things I noticed happening while in this beta that are always subject to change is that you are guaranteed to receive a piece of the pie, so to speak. And by that I mean you always carve something out of the monster when hitting those red points attacks correctly. I don't know what they're called. I also noticed that you tend to become invincible during these animations. So think about iframes and Souls-likes. This kind of is one of those iframe things because this kind of stun locks the enemies in their place. So now you can just pull off this attack, make them stagger for a bit, and then just go ham on their ass. Pause, resume. But with all that being said, man, you should definitely be using every aspect of this game. You've got items that you can use, from flash bombs to sonic bombs to different booster potions, as well as the traps that I mentioned earlier, man. There are so many things in this game that should be used to their maximum. You can always go back and craft some more. You don't have to have that FOMO thing of using an item now and hoping that, oh, maybe I'll use it later. Bro, you can buy it, you can craft it, you can find it, you can use all of the items, man. I can't stress this enough because most people think this is only just go in and it's a slugfest against the monsters, when it's not. There's so many tactics to use against this monster. You can climb, jump, you can climb the monster, you can mount them. Pause again. Jesus. I have so many pause moments in this video. Oh, that being said, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy this video, man, like the video. I do want to hear your comments in the comments section down below. Let me know what you think of Monster Hunter. Are there any tips that I didn't mention here that should be talked about more? So, man, let me know in the comments down below. Let all the new players watching this video know as well if you're an OG. What are you most hyped for in the new game? There's a lot of new additions. Some old monsters coming back from Rise, from World, from completely new monsters as well. That look awesome, and I'm super excited to be playing this game. I will be covering this game a lot more on this channel, so if you haven't yet, then subscribe to the channel, of course. I don't really know how to end this video, so enjoy the meme in the outro. I've been your broski. Keep on trucking, my dudes. A peace.